the big, beautiful bill the fix for America's housing crisis or a major missed opportunity? The Senate's new tax package just dropped, and here's what it means for affordable housing. On July 1st, the Senate passed their version of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Barely. This bill's so controversial, it ended up in a tie vote 50-50. This required Vice President J.D. Vance to step in support of the bill as the tiebreaker 51-50 vote. Today we're breaking down what's in the Senate's final passed version, how that differs from the other proposed bills, and how this could all seriously hurt low-income families. First, the House of Representatives passed their version of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Then the Senate took that bill, made their own changes to create a new version of the bill. After lots of debate and voting, the Senate passed their version of the bill. Now that the House and the Senate have passed their own versions, the bill goes back to the House. The House can either agree to the Senate's version or ask for more changes. If they don't agree, leaders from both the House and the Senate will come together and come up with a final version that both sides will support. Once they agree, they will vote on it one last time. If it passes, then it goes on to the president to sign into law. Just your standard no-fuss, 7-step legislative process created by people who thought going in a straight line was just too easy. The only thing more complicated.
So I just want to stop real quick to let you know, I've been trying to say this, and I appreciate this content actually, because it goes to show you exactly how bills are actually being created. I don't know why people believe that President Trump just has infinite time to make or just decide, and whatever he says goes. This is a clear breakdown how that's not how this works. He just went through 8 or 9 different steps of how it has to get through. Then JD Vance still had to make that executive decision or that executive vote to push it over the 50-50, and then it still had to go through to get signed. And there's so many extra steps that make this technically a longer and more drawn out process that I don't think the average American understands. All right, back to the video.
Let's dive into what was included in the House passed version of the bill and compare it to what was included in the Senate passed version of the bill. Here's what the bill does for housing and community development. The House proposed an increase to the 9% low-income housing tax credit to 12.5% from 2026 to 2029. The Senate established a permanent increase to the 9% low-income housing tax credit to 12%, helping developers finance more affordable rental housing. The House proposed lowering thresholds for private activity bonds from 50% to 25% from 2026 to 2029. The Senate proposed the same threshold of 25% but made the provision permanent. Private activity bonds are a major tool for financing affordable housing. These are special low-interest government-supported loans that help developers create or preserve affordable housing. The House proposed extending opportunity zones for 7 years, whereas the Senate made the program permanent with additional oversight. The House proposed a 30% boost in funding for developments that support rural or Native American areas, reducing the potential impact in underserved areas. Both the House and the Senate included bonus depreciation. However, the House version only went through 2029, whereas the Senate version made it permanent. Bonus depreciation means developers can deduct big costs like buildings or equipment right away instead of over many years. This frees up cash when affordable developments need it the most. This helps increase the amount of private funding the affordable development can receive from investors. Both the House and the Senate proposed cutting energy and efficiency credits. However, the Senate proposed cuts should happen on a faster timeline than the House plan. This could apply pressure on solar, home energy efficiency, EV charging, green construction, and ultimately raise the cost of energy efficient buildings. Federal land sales were not in the House bill. The Senate briefly proposed the sale of 2 to 3 million acres of public land to help either fund or build affordable housing, but this provision was removed after severe backlash from the public. A spreadsheet comparing these portions of the House bill and the Senate bill are included in the description below. In terms of housing production, the House version would create a little over 500,000 new affordable units, while the Senate version is projected to create over 1 million new units. This is a huge deal. This is likely the biggest pro-housing legislation we've seen in decades, especially when we're talking about creating a little over 1 million new affordable homes with the Senate bill. So why, in this moment, when one of the biggest investments of affordable housing in years is so troubling to low-income families? Because the basis of this bill relies on cutting public programs in order to extend tax cuts that were made in.
So they're going to cut Medicaid by 930 billion, cut SNAP by 197 billion. Some sources say 239 billion. Clean energy 500 billion. EPA emission standards, that's not here nor there. And then the OFR for 293 freaking million. But this is the biggest part. Medicaid 930 billion and SNAP 197 billion.
In 2017 that expired this year. To make up the difference, the House and the Senate versions both rely heavily on public funding cuts. Here are a few that will have a major impact on moderate and low-income families. The House proposed that SNAP, or food assistance funding, should be eliminated and the responsibility should be shifted to the states. But there is a modified SNAP trigger for states that are not efficiently running the SNAP program. They also instituted new work requirements that could cause millions to lose food benefits. The House proposed about $800 billion in Medicaid cuts. This includes work requirements, higher cost sharing, and eligibility redeterminations, causing 7.8 million people to lose insurance. While the Senate version deepens these cuts to $1 trillion, with expanded work requirements, tighter provider tax caps, and stricter eligibility checks, affecting upwards of 12 million people. These changes could also strain hospitals, especially in low-income or rural areas, and could limit access to care to vulnerable groups. Both bills cut student loan access and repayment options. This makes it harder for students from low-income families or adult learners to get an education. Both the House and Senate bills include a tax break on tips and overtime pay, but they do it in different ways. The House version offers full federal tax relief for all tax on tips and overtime pay through 2028. There are no caps, there are no limits. The Senate also cuts taxes on tips and overtime, but the tax cuts are more limited. There's a $25,000 cap on how much tip income can be deducted, and the benefits start phasing out if you make over $150K a year. The House proposed a temporary boost to the child tax credit to $2,500 through 2028. The Senate passed raising the child tax credit to $2,200, making it permanent and tying it to inflation starting in 2025. Overall, up to 12 million more people could become uninsured and food insecure, affecting low-income families the most. Now let's put this in a plain dollars and cents. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, put out a report on the House version of the One Big Beautiful Bill, and here's what they found. The poorest households would actually lose about $1,600 a year. Meanwhile, the wealthiest households would gain about $12,000 annually. The Senate bill would create over 1 million new affordable homes, which is amazing, but it would take away the very support systems that help low-income families the most. If we gut these programs like healthcare, food assistance, and student aid, we may end up needing more affordable housing just to support families who are more cost-burdened than ever. At the same time, President Trump's new budget is proposing a $33 billion cut to HUD, including the elimination of the federal Section 8 housing support. Trump's budget proposal, which is still a proposal, would be just for the next year budget only, while the One Big Beautiful Bill is legislation currently in the House and Senate that is already in motion to actually change laws. In Trump's proposed budget, states would take over the Section 8 program. Assistance would be capped at just 2 years for able-bodied adults, and all able-bodied adults would be required to work. Finally, there is a...
That's exactly how it needs to be. I don't know who needs to hear this, who doesn't want to hear this, and who likes it and disagree. I don't care. But you should not be able to be on food stamps or affordable housing for more than 2 years when you're an able-bodied citizen. Leave that for the disabled, the medically enabled, and just the people who need it. But like, this is just wild that, I mean, I come from an environment where I've seen it, still see it, and people are gloating about it, which is just wild that they're okay with scamming and screwing over the hardworking American so they can get benefits. I don't want my tax dollars to pay for you to have affordable housing. I had to buy this mortgage. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is not fair.
Massive elephant in the room that is looming over all of these bills, and that is the national debt. The Congressional Budget Office says the House-passed version of the bill could add anywhere from $2.4 to $2.8 trillion to the national debt over just the next 10 years. The Senate bill could add over $3.3 trillion to $4 trillion to the national debt, which is over $1 trillion more than the House version. More national debt means higher treasury yields, which leads to higher interest rates. That makes borrowing more expensive, especially for affordable developments which rely heavily on low-income loans to make the financing work to build new affordable housing. So ironically, the bill designed to help create more affordable housing could actually make it harder and more expensive to build more affordable housing. Now that the Senate has passed the bill, what happens next? Next, the bill goes back to the House. There, fiscal conservatives are pushing back on the Senate's version of the higher debt impact and the larger Medicare Medicaid cuts, going from $2.4 trillion in national debt added in the House version to almost $4 trillion in the Senate version, and then cutting insurance from 7.8 million individuals to 12 million individuals are two big pills to swallow. Between the national debt and the Medicaid cuts, those are some big differences that the House will have to reconcile. The House may either accept the bill or amend it, triggering a quick back and forth or formal conference committee. That's when a small group of House and Senate members come together and merge the two bills into one. The Republicans and the White House are both pushing to get the entire bill passed by July 4th. It remains to be seen what stays from the sections relating to housing.
All right, good people. I'll throw the full video down in the description. Always try to give credit to the content creators because that's exactly what we're doing. But man, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Let me know how y'all feel about this. And from my understanding, Section 8 affordable housing, SNAP, and certain parts of Medicaid or Medicare are about to be cut off. Let me know what y'all think, man. As usual, be you, be true. Let the universe do the rest. Have a good one.